not a YouTuber, just like making videos. And the question is, am I a racist? I know I've exerted extreme views on my videos, and people may be wondering, they may be pondering. And of course we all know that black people are the new racists now, and so forth. But it's very complicated. I'm like, it's hard for so-called black men to talk about the anguish of his past and his condition in the future, and how we're so intertwined with white people, and not come off too radical. And I just like to look at things realistically. And now we have to delve and observe this thing called race. Now here's another question that's very popular. Can a black person be racist? And there's no simple answer to that, because there's no simple answer on exactly what race is. I'm like, there's not even a clear definition of it in the dictionary. Social construct, and people are still defining and redefining what race is. And what do we go by? Do we go by the skeletal structure? And why do people still get race and nationality so mixed up, and so forth? But people have stated that race is a system, and since black people don't have any power, there's no way we can control that system to benefit us. That's sort of true, but we also have to look at it that there are black people with power. I'm like, majority, I'm saying, on a large scale, we can't even compare it to white people. White people are like a freaking, a Mustang compared to a gadfly. But if you have a black business owner and he decides he doesn't want to hire a white person, an Anglo-Saxon, and discriminate against him, I'm like, do we still consider that, discrimination on our level? Hence, this dude does have the power to hire and fire anybody he wants. But let's say this employer, this business owner states that, hey, you white boys, you had a head start, you got your own businesses. I'm trying to build my businesses. I only want to help my people and employ my people and try to empower my people in my neighborhood. So you have to look at it for that aspect, and that which I have to consider to be what I call maybe reasonable racism. Because hence, his mentality and his opinion and his stance on the matter wouldn't have existed unless it was just there wasn't this long history of racial injustice and degradation by white people. So, racism as a system we don't have control over, and so therefore we can't be racist. I sort of agree with that, but there's just a side of me that is still kind of I'm not 100% with it, even though people know I'm very proactive black on my videos, but still it's like I look at it as I imagine if we makes let's look at it as like if we hold black racism to the same standard of white racism, or vice versa. Like let's say a little black kid is playing with his white friends, and you go into the house and the white kid's father tells the kid, after the black kid leaves, don't bring that monkey back over or any niggers to my house. You consider that white person a racist, that white man. He can be unemployed, He can be, a tow truck driver. He's a racist. Let's switch it up. You know what I'm saying? Let's do it in reverse. And you have a black kid playing with his white friend and brings him to the house. When the white kid leaves, his father says to him, he said, "Don't bring any of those stringy haired white boys into my house ever again." So would you consider that racist? I'm like, because he's teaching racism, to his child, that this kid is different, he doesn't belong here. So that creates a conundrum. So I don't know, it's something to think about. But we're going to talk about, am I racist? The situation is, why is that, a lot of black people who speak the truth are considered racist. I remember one time I was speaking to some dude and his white girlfriend. And it's just kind of like a dude I just met off the street. We were just hanging out on a certain circumstance. This is when Barack Obama was right about to get into office in 2008. And us black, I was talking to this black man and we were saying, hey, it's a long time coming or whatever, and we was just talking about the struggle. And his white girlfriend started to scoff at us, and she started talking about her German ancestry, about how hard and the Germans had it when coming here and so forth. So even with this white female, who has a black boyfriend, is still insensitive and still is unable to look at our situation realistically. Now I kind of wanted to tell that white female, because me, I'm such a smart ass that knows everything, that the Germans, were still able to start their own little towns up or whatever, and their own little communities. For instance, Anaheim in California was a German town, and the Germans started up a faction of the Ku Klux Klan in California. Believe it or not, they brought the Klan to California. So how can these white Germans be so downtrodden and so mistreated, but yet still they're able to link up with an extreme racist group? That's something to think about. But I look at some of these black guys on YouTube, these snowflakes, these turnovers, and how they talk about, us black people are the racists and this and that, and that slavery ended and the white man doesn't owe you anything, and that this racism and this angst you hold towards white people is holding you back. And and I heard this other YouTuber by the name of Tyrone Magnus, and I got no problem with this dude, but he made a video of pointing out the black racist and white people, slavery, like there ain't that the same old rigmarole, there ain't no slaves alive today, why are you still holding a grudge and so forth, and I was like, but let me tell you something, when one group of people oppress another group of people, it's only logical for, the oppressed group have bitter feelings about their oppressors, or even their former oppressors, and so forth. And with us, it's a strong racial element. I think about when the British oppressed the Irish. It was was about class, and it was about nationality. Even though the British tried to make the Irish seem like grunts and they were lower on the evolutionary scale, even comparing them to black people on how they felt about blacks. And in Ireland, you had something about the insurgents. That's what they call it. That even though the British had took them over, you had a whole lot of terrorism in Irish, because what the British, they didn't forget what the British has done to them, and the British still hold a whole lot of power. So, they want to get their little strike back on. But, there's a conflict, there's a friction there. But there's no racial component, because these factions are white. See, the friction between black people and white people here in America, there's a racial component. And this is what's keeping everything more complicated, you know what I'm saying? Because if I talk about slavery and what they've done, then they say, oh, you're hating on white people, you know what I'm saying? You gotta love white people and so forth. But I imagine that, let's say these people that oppressed us were black. I mean, they were black Europeans, looked like us, that somehow threw us in slavery and oppressed us. Therefore, the descendants of the slaves, or the descendants of the slave masters, you know what I'm saying, and the oppressors just lived better than the descendants of the oppressed. And therefore, these people are still going to have angst and still be mad at their former oppressors, you know, and so forth. But since they're both the same quote-unquote race, there's no racial component there. But see, hence, with our, you know what I'm saying, our conflict with white people, there's a racial component there. That hence, even if you take that racial component out of this situation, you're still going to have people mad at a certain group of people for what they've done. You see what I'm saying? It's like in Africa, Zanzibar. You know, this place was a major slave port. These was considered black Arabs or Muslims enslaved these other black people. You know, during slavery, during colonial times. Fast forward to modern times, and you know what I'm saying, in the 1960s, of course, the descendants of the slave traders were living better than the typical blacks that would have went in slavery during that era. There was a big uprising and there was a big massacre. The blacks, you know what I mean, that would have been slaves, the ones that are the lower class, you know what I'm saying, did a massacre against all the descendants of the slave trade. You see what I'm saying? And they took all their wealth and took all their property. This was documented in the film Africa Ordeal. If you check that film out, that's a good film. You see the conflict between these people in Africa, even though they were the same color, same race, you know, and so forth. There, you know, I mean, there was no racial component, you know. Oh, they were just angry at a group of people. As of us here in America, as blacks in America, we have this racial component kind of like, and they say, oh, don't get mad at white people, don't get mad at men. Okay, this ain't about white people. I know that not all white people were a part of the slave trade. I know that there were some backwater European countries where the white people there didn't even have enough resources to build a goddamn canoe, let alone build a fucking slave boat and go and get slaves. I understand that. But, you know what I'm saying, it's hard to you know what I'm saying, to shift through the madness and figure out, you know what I'm saying, the descendants of slaves and other white people. And these white people who just recently got off that goddamn tugboat is all like, oh, my ancestors didn't have anything to do with slavery and this and that. We're from Albania or whatever. I'm like, okay, I understand that, but please move the fuck out the way so I can address this motherfucker whose family did have slaves. You know what I mean? It's almost like the descendants of the slave masters is hiding behind these other white people, or these other white people that had nothing to do with slavery or whatever are getting offended when us black people are raising our voices, which is fucking bullshit. If it has nothing to do with you, stay out of it. Just like when blacks talk about reparations, we know that there's poor white people. We're not trying to go and get reparations from every single freaking white person. We want reparations from these institutions that started off, you know, making money off the slave trade some way or another, like fucking Brown's University or Chase Morgan or shit like that. And these other white people are like, oh, my ancestors didn't own slaves. Well, okay, that's fine. We're like, please get the fuck out of our way and let us address the ones who did have ancestors who owned slaves. See, this is where the confusion comes in and so forth. And this is why it has become such an complicated matter. Do I hate white people? No. I think what it is anger, and some people mix hatred up with anger because we're still left in the dark about what exactly happened and how much money was made and so forth, because the school system, our educational system, barely touched down on it. And the more and more books I read on the subject, the more I'm becoming more enlightened. Like, damn, this actually happened, and it kind of makes me angry, and so forth. This already been going on too long. All right, thanks for listening.